All right, just want to talk a little bit about what we've worked on here, just so you understand where I'm coming from. We had done the overlap alternating as we went up, and that's what I wanted to do as I transitioned into here. But there was a lot of variance and struggles with that. So at this level right here, I flattened it all off with the actual laminated portions. And then I did go ahead and run, even though I didn't want to, a keel strip all the way across. Although I have to admit, right now it is still a little tricky, but it's much easier putting these and transitioning into. I'm not sure that I like it totally flat, so I may come back, take some of my scrap white oak, and I will probably laminate a little bit on here. It'll add maybe more for especially a rub guard as when you're coming into a shoreline and so forth, because that seems to be where canoes and kayaks take the most abuse, is that front end right underneath the water line as it comes in. So it's not a bad thing. It does add weight, but it might be something that is a nice transition and a little bit more clean. So I'm thinking about doing that as I continue on. When you're doing these strips, it really is a must to make sure that you've got one of them already cut and preset so that you just slide it in and then finish it from the side around. Again, I'm still using no nails, and that is a bit of a challenge. I'm using all of the shot cords that I had because I had originally made enough shot cords to do each side, thinking that that would work, but there's a lot of bending that goes on, and these strips are not being steam bent. So they're going on flat and then being forced into position. And then we go ahead and move in. I've only got a few boards left, or the slats for these in terms of the wood strips. Then we're going to transition to another board, so we will get a different pattern on the very bottom. But because it'll be on the bottom water line, it doesn't really matter. It's going to look totally cool because you're going to see it from a different perspective. Then our goal is to take this off. We'll tip it on its side, and we're going to take all these insect holes and we're going to fill them. We're either going to fill them clear, or we're going to fill them with some crushed turquoise epoxy resins in order to just have some contrast and pop. And again, it always gives you a story to tell about what they are and how they got there. So let's go ahead and cut and put this strip on. All right, so I just ran the cove cut and I need to cut my bevel here in order to get this set so we can start gluing and then wrap it around. This is my most difficult end to work around versus the other side, which is total access all the way around it. A couple of things in terms of tricks. I take my bungee cords and I just run through the loop, tighten it down, and then put it over one of my clamps, and I stick my board through there. That way it allows it to have some flexibility off of the canoe shell, but as one person, I can then work up here and not have that flailing all over the place. So those are some of the little things that I do. As I said, I'm gonna try and clamp these two forms right here so that I've got this in a curved motion or a curved setting, and then I'll work on my cut. I'm not perfect at these. Basically, it's just cutting it on the edge as you see it. This side's easy because you're always able to push into it, but as you're gluing it, it's the other side in order to get a tight fit. That's really tricky. I'm still practicing. As you can see, I've got teeny tiny gaps through here, so they're not absolutely 100% flush. I need to build probably another boat in order to get more practice. So let's go ahead and get this strip prepped. All right, so I forgot to turn on the time lapse as I was cutting this. So again, I use my Japanese pull saw that I use, right? And again, I lined it up, had a scrap board underneath in order to make the cut, lined it up with the edge. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. When it doesn't fit, I'll use my sanding board. And again, I just kind of work the same angle as the keel strip that's right there. And then the last thing that I will do, probably actually one of the first things I will do, is I will cut the back side of that cove so that it's flush up against the edge of the curve so that this can slide in, because this will be a binding point, especially right in through here. So those are some of the tricks. And you'll also notice that when I glued, I ran my finger through in order to create a kind of a cohesion to the surface area. When I flipped it upside down to glue the other side, it didn't all come dripping out. Now, so that's just one of the tricks that I learned over time, was to go ahead and run your finger through that bead. And the other part was, don't run your glue all the way down, because you're going to pull this in and out. And you'll notice a lot of times I will blow the dust away rather than blow the dust into the glue. Again, hindsight 2020, I'd made some of those mistakes. So let's go ahead and finish up gluing this, putting it in, and finish the bands. And again, I just go along just to make sure I've got constant pressure all the way across. And it's kind of nice actually having extra cords, since I'm only doing one side at a time. And then based off of this fit, I'll get most of my downward pressure that I need from my shock cord right here. And that looks pretty decent in terms of how it's going to fit in there based off of what I've got. So we'll just finish this up. We'll go back, check all of our joints, and then we'll go work on another part of the project in order to keep ourselves busy. So again, come back, check clamps. We'll let it dry half the day before we come back, take them off, and start working on the other side.